This is a special edition of Mike Monday, not filmed on a Monday, but instead filmed on a Friday. Um, I've been working on two more plays to the Weekend Goes Bad series. Um, on Monday, I made The Weekend Goes Bad Part 7, and in that, Ben Jones gets fired and does not want to see either his wife or his son again. He wishes them never to return to Winston, which is a suburb of Colbean, which is the capital of Kinatola. Kinatola is a mythical, not real nation. Uh, anyway, Mrs. Jones and Mark come here to America, uh, uh, aiming to seek fortune, but and Mr. Jones says, and I quote, "If I see you back here again, I will kill all of you. Tell me if you think that is bad." Anyway, I also made a new play over 3 days called School Trip. In it, Mrs. Kate Johnson's class go on this trip to the resort island on Jackson Lake Campground. You may be familiar with Mark Johnson. He's a character from the Family Vacation series, as well as one summer camping trip play. And in School Trip, they go to this resort. Mr. Steve Johnson, Kate Johnson's brother, Kate Johnson's husband, uh, is the boat driver. He drives them from Jackson Lake and Campground docks to the resort island shore. And Sarah Holmes, the lodge manager, works in her office next to the resort's lodge. And the students are all excited about it except for Ken Jones and Alex Jordan. Alex Jordan makes this very bad remark: "I hate trips, I hate school, and I hate you." After he makes that remark, he's sent to Parker Shaw's office. Parker Shaw is the principal of the Kinatola National School. Parker Shaw kicks out Alex Jordan. He almost kicks Mark Johnson out just because of an anger issue. Tell me if you think tell me if you think that is discrimination. And now, there's 3 parts to a School Trip. Part 1 was written on Monday. Part 2 was written on Tuesday. And Part 3 was written on Wednesday. In Part 2, I think that's when Alex Jordan gets kicked out of school. In Part 3, they're at the resort. After lunch, Mrs. Johnson is feeling ill and says to her husband, "Steve, I'm not feeling well." Okay. And then there's uh, some stories that I've written. Oh, and The Weekend Goes Bad? That has its roots back in May 2017. In The Weekend Goes Bad 1, Sarah dies suddenly. In The Weekend Goes Bad 2, Mr. Jim is Jim is told to move to decides to move to America finds a job for KMIL TV. Then he moves back to Alum, County Dean Island, when he learns that Dan, his only son, quit school at Folsom, which is located in the Highlands near Tinney, but slightly to the north. And then in The Weekend Goes Bad 3, a guy gets fired because he had a bomb at work. In The Weekend Goes Bad 4, Tim's house almost catches on fire. In The Weekend Goes Bad 5, another guy named Jim gets fired. In The Weekend Goes Bad 6, I don't know what happens. And I just told you about The Weekend Goes Bad 7. But then there's The Weekend Goes Bad 8, where Mr. Rivers almost gets fired from work. And Fred Rivers almost gets kicked out of school. And then a big storm comes. And they all survive. But then the next day, Fred Rivers is terribly ill. He is at the hospital, the Kinatola National Hospital, and then he later dies from a blood clot which burst in his stomach. And then there's going to be more of The Weekend Goes Bad plays to come. I won't tell you what happens in any of them because they haven't been written. And then in my stories, they're about different things. They have their roots as far back as, I don't know, a few years. But then in New Kids, the main character is tired of these kids who keep bothering him night after night saying, can we play, can we play, can we play? And then he resolves it by killing them, and then he shoots himself. Obviously, this guy has a mental issue. But then there's another story that I wrote called End of School, where the main character's kids are at the Kinatola National School. It's the end of the school year. He has to drive down from Winston to Colbean to get them. Mark doesn't want to leave because he will miss his friends. Then Jim says, you'll see them in September. And then Josh says he loves his teacher and they'll have her again next year. And then Mark is crying and he's crying and crying and crying until they get back home. And then someone says, we'll have fun over summer vacation. And then there's going to be another family vacation play, Family Vacation 7. Don't ask me what will happen in that. There's also going to be Family Vacation 8 and Family Vacation 9 and then Family Vacation 10. There's going to be 10 plays in the Family Vacation series, which has its roots back in October, so not very long ago. So, and I'm not even going to show you the play that I wrote, because I just told you about it. And if you're a big fan of my stories, be sure to tell me. If you think I need more work, also tell me. And then the It Happened at School plays. They have their roots as far back as April. And then, yeah, they were really bad plays. And It Happened at School, so It Happened at School 8. I think that's when Tim Jones dies. In part 7, there's smoke suddenly coming out of the wall. In part 6, Dan is kicked out of school just because he kicked the classroom door and he has this big long fit. In part 5, Sam gets kicked out of school and he makes a big thing out of it. But then, since parts 4, 3, 2, and 1 are gone, I can't tell you about them. Okay, do you want to hear about the summer camping trip series? Let's get right into that. The summer camping trip plays. They have their roots as far back as April 2017. I think I told you about this in my first Mike Monday video. But I remember showing you Summer Camping Trip Part 15, Part 4. I think I'm going to do a remake of Summer Camping Trip Part 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. But then there's also going to be a Summer Camping Trip 21 all the way up to 31. Maybe even 32, I don't know. But then there's going to be a whole bunch of other new plays. But then here's a play I've never talked about. A new school. Here's a part of it. I painted you for Oxcliffe and Folsom. Which would you like to go to? Both are well-known public schools, but that was all I knew about them. Folsom. I'll go to Folsom. That was an easier word to say than Oxcliffe. We were living in County Dean then, in a place called Toton. Folsom was up in the highlands near Tinney, but slightly to the north. That was of no consequence. We had our own plane. Nobody was taken to school by car in those times because there are no cars on Dean Island. Hurry up, or else you'll miss your move-in time. So I quickly got dressed for the part. Then I was ready for my departure. Mom? Yes, Jack. What if they make me do sports? I think that's required. So, is it too late for me to change my mind? Yes. Then when I arrived at the new school, I didn't know anyone except for a kid named, I think it was Alex Johnson, from the banks of the Logan, in the county of Logan, from Logan. Hey Jack, I want to hang out with you. When are you going to be done? Never. Just kidding. Seriously, when are you going to be done? Soon. Tell me what you thought of that. But then here's another play that I wrote. Trapped in the Woods. It's about these kids who are trapped in the woods. They're looking for a way out, and then there's a huge storm and they're caught in it. There's a tree that's on fire and Sally's leg is burning, and then there's this woman who comes along and says, poor child, and Sally is crying harder and harder and harder, and then when the storm passes, it gets worse. It gets very bad. There's like these big explosions and stuff like that. And then for a survival adventure, there's a man who's trying to survive in the wilderness. He dies suddenly of a bleeding stomach just because he ate raw deer meat. He had no way of cooking. He was very lonely. He was very lonesome and stuff like that. I'm gonna... And then, tell me if you want me to write something, a play about something that actually happened. Because lately I've been writing these fictional plays. And then, The Night I Went to Town. That's an exclusive play written in May. It's about Jim Polk. He had to go back into town, to go back into work for something. Mrs. Polk is home alone with the kids. There was Bill, Will, and Clara. It's Clara who is sick. Suddenly, she faints, and here's a part of the play. Mr. Polk. Deb, I wish you wouldn't call me like this. I'm in the middle of a meeting. Mrs. Polk, I needed to talk to you. Clara fainted as soon as she got downstairs. I'm worried she hurt herself. Can you come home? Mr. Polk, I can't. Before he could go on, the phone went off. Tell me if you thought that was pretty interesting. And then, A Night Out goes bad. That's another exclusive. Uh, George and Sherry are fighting, and soon the play ends with I think one of them leaving, and then oh boy, then there's A Night Out, which was back in April. Mary dies suddenly because she was losing blood really fast because Joe and Mary were in a car accident, and Dan, Ken, and Victoria are home alone. So then they walk over to the hospital, and then Joe only has a dislocated knee, which they treated as soon as he got to the hospital. But Mary was fading very fast. And I wrote a whole bunch of untitled plays. Tell me if you want me to talk about any of those sometime. And I've also been writing a lot of other stuff. Now, next Monday I won't be doing this. The next Monday I'll be doing this will be November 27th. Like, share, comment, subscribe, click, do anything you can to stay up to date on our channel.